Hi, Care. I snuck to the hallway to try to make you a video because I think it's a little easier to explain it as you see what I'm writing. So I like how your professor put f of a plus h, and f of a plus h minus f of a over h in 3 different parts, because then you can do the work separately, which was what I was going to kind of tell you what to do. So when I'm doing these, I think of f of whatever it is equals, wherever you see an x, just put parentheses instead. So I've got x squared, so I'm going to put parentheses squared minus 3 parentheses, because there's another x, plus 5. So now I can do part A and part B, and I can kind of almost do part C if I think of it this way. So part A, I want f of, I'm going to plug in the A in here. And then I'm going to do A again into that one. So I'm putting an A every set of parentheses. A again, plus 5. I can just leave this one for now because I'm going to use it later. And then for part B, so I'm still using this format here, but what I'm plugging into those parentheses this time is A plus H. So I've got my parentheses squared minus 3 parentheses plus 5, and I'm plugging in A plus H every time. Okay, so this one, then what this tells you here, because you have the squared, is that I'm going to have to FOIL, if that's what you learned. So that's first, outside, inside, last. So you can do this work on its own if you want to. I'm going to do it out so that I can show you. So A plus H squared means A plus H times A plus H. I like to stay focused. So then I'm going to do A times A. So the first one times the first one, and that's A squared. And I'm going to do it vertically, even though you're not going to do it that way in your paper, just so I can explain it. So the first times the first is A times A, which is A squared. The next one is A times H. So A times H, which is AH. So it's the outside and the outside. Then I'm going to do the inside. So H times A. So H times A is also AH or HA. I'm just going to write it as AH. And then H times H, the last ones, is H squared. So then what you do is you add all these together. And I see that AH and AH are like terms. So AH plus AH actually equals 2 AH. That's just this first set of parentheses, okay? So then for the second set of parentheses here, I'm going to take the sign and everything, and I'm going to want to distribute. Okay, so negative 3 times the quantity of A plus H. You say quantity of when it's in parentheses. Negative 3 times A plus H. You're going to distribute, so you take negative 3 and you multiply it by A, and negative 3 and you multiply it by H. So you get negative 3A. Negative 3 times positive. Negative times positive is negative. 3 times H is 3H. So then for part B, I'm going to rewrite everything that I did. So I've got A squared plus 2AH plus H squared. That's this guy. And then I've got negative 3 and minus 3H is this guy. And then I got my plus 5. So for part B, I'm going to do A squared plus 2AH plus H squared minus 3A minus 3H. And now that's that part. And then I have plus 5. And then as you look across, you've got an A squared, nothing else like it. An AH, nothing else like it. H squared, you got an H over here, but not a squared. A, an H, so nothing is a like term, so that's really as far as you can go. And depending on what your professor likes, he might want you to rearrange it so you get all the A squared stuff together, so he could have you do like plus AH minus 3A minus 3H, I don't know, plus H squared plus 5, something like that, where he's got them sort of next to each other. But if it were me, I would just leave it like this.